giving you the information you need. This is Inside the News. Here's Guy, Ben, and Frank.
Welcome back to Inside the News. Frank for News Show, usagovpolicy.com. Ben Brunson. You can find his books at benbrunson.com, amazon.com. My name is Guy Wayman. All right, the Iran deal with the United States and the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. It's top secret. You can't find out what it is. There's something scary about that, Ben, when they're saying we're not going to let you see it.
Well, peace has broken out. Don't you guys know that? So I guess Donald Trump got what he wanted in the end, and we've talked about it pretty openly on this show for the last couple of months, that it became apparent to us that what was driving Donald Trump's motivation more than anything was getting this war in the rearview mirror and getting the price of oil down. And I will say this past week, since the deal was announced at the end of last weekend, I've seen tons of stories about the deal, and I'd say 99% were about one thing: the price of gas. When will gas go down? How fast will it go down? How will it affect you at the pump? I've seen probably dozens of news stories that were just that very headline. So the only thing that Trump cared about, and fully understanding the impact it's going to have on the midterm election, is the price of gasoline at the pump, the price of diesel. And unfortunately, that's been his driving motivation. The Iranians understood that probably long before we did. And they took full advantage of that. So we don't know the exact details as we're recording, but enough has leaked out to know that what this deal is: we're going to reopen the straits. The Iranians are going to start making a lot of money again. They're going to refill their coffers, and we're going to agree to talk again over the next 60 days. And I can guarantee that's going to stretch out to the next 6 months. And at a minimum, this whole thing is going to get punted to the other side of the midterm elections. Now, whether Donald Trump revisits the situation on the other side of the elections, I guess time will tell. I'm not sure he has an appetite to do that. What are the pros of what's happened? Well, yes, we have degraded the Iranian military, the nuclear program. Natanz has totally destroyed their primary enrichment halls. Fordow apparently was destroyed in successful strikes, which was their secondary enrichment hall. What we don't know is what's happening underneath Pickaxe Mountain, which is the relatively new underground facility they built just a couple miles south of Natanz, where apparently they store their roughly 1,000 pounds of 60% enriched uranium. The big headline that the president's touting is that they agree not to pursue nukes. Well, they agreed to do that under the JCPOA. They also agreed under the JCPOA to never enrich uranium beyond 3%. Newsflash, we all know that they enriched to 60%. So they will honor the deal they cut with Donald Trump every bit as much as they honored the JCPOA, which is to say not at all. And the regime, the hardline regime, stays in power. So you have to chalk that up as a big win for the Iranian regime. They're in power, and that's the only thing they care about. And I guess we're going to move on from here.
It's been about 10 years plus or so since the JCPOA was signed and that went into effect. And probably for most of us, this is going to be another 15 to 20 years down the line. The majority of the older people will not be around anymore because they'll be dead. And so it'll be the young people. It's going to be a new group. It's going to be a new president in the White House that's going to have to take on Iran at this point. And so this was just another deterrent in the road for Iran, but they're willing to move on because we know that just like 9/11, they planned well out there, Frank.
Good point. The bottom line, of course, since none of us have seen the MOU, we don't know about the timeline about this. One of the fatal flaws of the JCPOA was that it expired at a certain number of years. In fact, it would have been expired by now, giving Iran the full legal right to build a nuclear weapon. Credit to President Trump for destroying the Iranian nuclear program as it currently exists, and you can't take that away from him. Every other president was afraid of the political football that this thing was. He was not afraid. He took the hit for it. He did what had to be done, and all credit to him. The problem is, perhaps, that Donald Trump's America is not the America of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The Americans of the 1940s were quite willing to sacrifice whatever they had to sacrifice for the good of the country, whether it was rationing, whether it was going to war, no matter what it was. The America of 2026 doesn't want to sacrifice anything. They want all the results without giving anything in. I thought it was somewhat disgraceful that, knowing the dangerous future we were facing from an Iranian nuclear weapon, that the public outcry about paying a little bit more at the gas pump overshone everything that was being gained by knocking out the Iranian nuclear program. Yes, it was hard on many people that had to pay more for gas. No one wants to do that. But the country is unwilling to sacrifice for the greater good and for the greater future. It exposed a great weakness in our body politic at this point, that we're not willing to look at an ultimate goal by doing some minor sacrifices at the present. If you listen to the news, you would have thought that we entered the Great Depression, when gas prices rose to a point still less than what they were on average under the Biden administration, and the newspapers and the media thought that was just swell. So I think this exposed something really rotten in our civic politics. It's still a problem. Gas is still higher than it should be. It will go down like a rock, I believe, within the next 30 days. But it exposed something really rotten in our country right now. We have to be willing to sacrifice for an ultimate goal.
Yeah, we've got a whole lot more to discuss on this, but we're up against the clock. But it seems like gas prices, they go up like a rocket, but they fall like a feather. And we just are not going to see them come down that fast. We're going to take a time out. We're going to be back. And Gavin Newsom, we've talked about him before, but what a, well, there's a whole lot of words that we can use, but we're on broadcast with the FCC, so we don't want to go against that. We'll be back. Welcome back to Inside the News, and more of a leadership, internal domestic segment here. Gavin Newsom, he's pushing back on Trump, saying of the investigation. And yet when, and Frank, you made this point, and before we went on the air here, that if you look at California before Newsom and California now, the decline in California is a beautiful, beautiful state, but not anymore because of all the, well, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, as we discussed previously, you cannot have a body of land more blessed than California in terms of geography, in terms of natural resources, in terms of a great population. And somehow or other, with all of that, the liberals in Sacramento, the leftists in Sacramento, have managed to run California into the dirt. If you look at the numbers of California, pre-Newsom and now almost post-Newsom, you saw how terrible a job he did. You can get past the politics. You can get past the ideology. Just look at the raw numbers, and you'll see the man was absolutely devastating. And to add insult to injury, he has led the state legislature in Sacramento to pass legislation that prevents federal investigators from looking into a lot of scams that they're running in California. So you're having a situation where state officials are going to block federal investigators from trying to expose the grift that went on in California, a la what happened in Minnesota. So this is a case of almost a crime, indeed a crime, but also a cover-up of a crime.
Let's go back to the mobs in the 1930s, you know, and they went around to all the various businesses for protection money, okay? And we're going to go around to you. We're going to get money from you. And we're going to pass this as a law that we're allowed to take the protection money and you cannot prosecute against us. That's basically what's going on here, Ben.
Sure. They pass laws all the time that make it illegal for you to investigate them or audit them. So it's as corrupt as it gets. If the mafia controlled the government, the result is called California. That's all you have. So I would put Gavin Newsom as the male version of Hillary Clinton, except with half her IQ. The guy's as incompetent as the day is long. Couldn't care a whit about any human being in California. He is yes, Donald Trump is a narcissist, but he actually cares about the country and works for the country. Newsom's a narcissist who couldn't give a whit about anyone else other than whoever is in his crosshairs to sleep with that night. So it is amazing to watch the incompetence. Everything in California has been destroyed. They've rigged the election system. Javier Becerra will be the next governor of California. There's 0% chance of that being different. For that to change, Steve Hilton will have to get over a third of actual registered Democrats to vote for him. And that would be the only way you could overcome the ballot harvesting rig system that California has in place right now. And that is not going to happen, unfortunately. So Becerra will be their next governor. So they're going to go from one incompetent to the next as they watch people flee. They're driving the middle class, working class out of the state now. They've already driven out the billionaires. The millionaires are starting to leave in droves. The state's headed for collapse, unfortunately. It is a beautiful state. Among my favorite cities in the world would be San Francisco. At least it used to be, but hard to go visit there now. Yeah. This is what Newsom has presided over. The people of California don't seem to care. I guess they've created a system where so many people are in on the grift, are making money off of the taxpayer. So few people pay taxes at the bottom end and make money from taxpayers that they go along with this entire system. The result will be third world collapse. You can see it, South Africa, if you want to go see South Africa now, that's kind of, they're about 10 years ahead of California in terms of their pathway towards destruction.
Okay, let's combine two stories here into one. Elon Musk, SpaceX, okay? The IPO was last week, and then you have Liz Warren. This is our two stories saying the rich is bad. We got to tax the rich. And yet she has been bought off by Big Pharma. Frank, go.
Where do you begin with the corruption with Liz Warren? We spoke off air about the fact that she portrayed herself as an American Indian to get a $400,000 job at Harvard, I think it was, and thereby blocking a real American Indian from getting that position. Where do you start with this? To just go back to California for just a moment. There used to be a scam in lower New York called the two-man glazier firm. One guy had the rock and the other guy had the plate glass to replace it. Well, at least they replaced it. In California, they have a scam running where they destroy local businesses with their taxes, but nothing's ever replaced for it. The jobs just go away. In the case of people like Liz Warren, you take what Elon Musk has done. And I'm going to compare two very different types of successful business people. The late Walt Disney. Walt Disney and Elon Musk created whole new industries. Liz Warren says, well, what are they doing for the public? They're not giving back. They're taking too much money. They created jobs by the hundreds of thousands, created whole new industries, a whole new part of the fiscal policy of the United States, fiscal enrichment of the United States. That's what they gave back. Liz Warren and the left don't seem to understand that. They don't understand it because they can't get a piece of the action. There's no one that has to bribe an Elon Musk or a Walt Disney. They do what they do because they are geniuses and they create thousands of jobs on their own. No one has to pick a pocket of someone else to get that done. And that's what the grifters like Liz Warren hate.
Okay, Ben, there's a loaded one right there.
Yeah, socialists and communists hate people who create wealth, like Elon Musk, who by my calculations has created at least $6 trillion of wealth that Americans enjoy. A lot of it could be in the state of California, but they drove him away. There's a meme going around where a state employee told him to get out in 2019, and his response was message received. And that started his movement of his business empire, primarily to Texas. And now Texas is enjoying the minting of thousands of new millionaires. Over 400 people, employees of SpaceX, are now worth over $100 million. And that is all primarily the efforts of Elon Musk, who started that from scratch, literally in his garage. He was sure SpaceX was going to go bankrupt multiple times, but they're well over 4,000 millionaires, and as I said, over 400 that are centimillionaires now because of SpaceX. Not to mention all the shareholders. And who created that? Who judges that wealth? Everyone does. Everyone, the entire marketplace, every American and people globally are voting every day, all day long, to determine Elon Musk's net worth. Same with Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett or anyone else on the list of wealthiest people. Their wealth is being determined by people who vote every day and determine the value of Amazon or Berkshire Hathaway or SpaceX. Right. And they can take that value to zero and bankrupt those individuals if they so desire, if they say that these companies aren't worth anything anymore. It's the exact opposite of government action. Government action just destroys wealth. The best government can do is create a foundation for wealth to be created. This country has excelled at that. It is why we are the wealthiest on earth, and why right now this country is leaving the rest of the planet behind in terms of wealth creation. Almost all wealth creation happening on this planet right now is happening in the United States.
Well, we pushed the button, and boy, I'll tell you what, Ben and Frank, they just took off. I'll tell you what, we're going to blast off in the next segment. It's called the Brunson Files. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside the News. We got Frank Vernuccio, USAGovPolicy.com. Ben Brunson, you can find him at benbrunson.com, and his books at Amazon.com. You know, we lit a fuse about SpaceX, and that rocket was starting to leave the launch pad, and that was in our last segment. And there is so much to be said about this, because Elon Musk, you can grab a piece of the rocket and you can go up with him. And it's pretty hard to bet against him. And if you just bought a single share of stock last week, you probably made close to $100 in just a weekend. Okay. So, but Ben, you can go on that, or you can go on Kevin Warsh. Ben, the field is wide open. Go.
I want to stay on Elon Musk because I think this is the biggest news story of our day. And the question is, why, as we record, Elon's worth about $1.3 trillion. All right. And we never had a trillionaire until about a week or two ago. So he's now worth $1.3 trillion as SpaceX closes in on a $3 trillion valuation. I think it's a little overvalued, but leave that aside. The question is, why is Elon Musk worth so much money? The market is very, very good at looking into the future and assessing future value creation. All right. That's why companies like Uber that lost money for years, that took over 20 billion of capital to fund its losses, still had a massive market cap when it came to the public. Same with Facebook, same with any number of companies. Amazon was a big money loser when it first started getting huge capital infusions, because the markets look out into the future and say, what are you doing? What are you going to be worth 5, 10, 20 years from now? And they have assessed what Elon Musk is doing. I view it as the future. You can look at the pieces of what he owns. He owns space. He revolutionized space with SpaceX. The analogy I do is, imagine an airline where you load people in New York and you fly them to London, and then you destroy the airplane. You know what those tickets would cost? They'd have to cost about $1 million per seat to make that worthwhile. But now you come along and invent an airplane that you can reuse and load back up in London and fly back to New York. And now those tickets can be sold for $500, $600 for each trip. It is an amazing concept. That's exactly what Elon Musk has done with the function of getting things into space. It's called reusable rockets. He's revolutionized the economics of it. He has robots. Tesla is not really a car factory. It's going to be a robot factory, a robot maker. In 20 years, I think most American families will have a Tesla robot in their house, taking care of their loved ones, taking care of their elderly people who live alone because we're so wealthy they can afford it. He's going to revolutionize. He's in communications, space, and Twitter. He's in the Neuralink. He owns a company called Neuralink, which is cutting edge human interface between human and machines. He owns a company called the Boring Company, which is the leader in drilling underground tunnels and tunnel systems The man is an amazing. He's created all of these companies from scratch. He's the most amazing industrialist probably ever in this country, and he's been rewarded by the markets, as I said in the earlier segment, that determine his wealth. Everyone is voting to determine his wealth and the wealth of every billionaire in this country. They're all voting on it. They do it every day. They can drive his wealth to zero if they think what he's doing is not worth anything. But they have stated loudly, and the market is pretty good at making these assessments. This is why our system is so great. It is the opposite of stealing. It is wealth creation. And this country is the best at it, and why our future and why our markets are going to go much higher under Donald Trump than where they are now. I said when he took office, I predicted 60,000 on the Dow before he left office. I'm going to be way shy on that. It's going to be a lot higher than that before he leaves office, because he has created a set of conditions in which we are creating wealth by the trillions every day in this country.
And just remember, Elon Musk and SpaceX, they went up and saved the people at the space station. Nobody else could get up there, and Elon Musk says, hey, no problem. I'm going to send up my guys. Frank?
Yeah, one of the differences in ideology between the right and the left is the concept of the pie. The right thinks that you don't have to worry about divvying up the pie. You can create a new pie, so you'll now have two pies for people to eat. The left believes there is and only will be forever and ever one pie, and all that counts is how you divvy up that single pie. The concept of getting another pie is foreign to their way of thinking. And so therefore, when you have an Elon Musk, or as I said before, a Walt Disney, they just ignore it. They simply say, that's not possible. You're not going to create a whole new market. You're not going to create wealth. We just have to divvy up the wealth that exists right now. It is a profound blindness on the part of the left that just won't go away.
Wow. Stick with us. We're going to wrap things up. The guys will each have their hot button topics. This is absolutely fascinating discussion. Tell your neighbors and friends about the program Inside the News, and we dare to go where nobody else goes because we tell the truth, and you can kind of rest on that. We're going to take a final timeout. We'll be back. Welcome back to Inside the News. Fascinating discussion off air. We're going to bring you into that discussion. We have Frank Vernuccio with USAGovPolicy.com, Ben Brunson, benbrunson.com, Amazon.com. Okay, Frank, you brought up a point about Kevin Warsh about too much chatter. Go.
Yeah, the new Fed chair is more interested in actually doing the work the Federal Reserve was set up to do rather than engaging in politics and public relations. Over the past couple of years, you've noticed that the Federal Reserve came out with report after report, which are really meant to give a public image to support a politician or that or other policy, and not really do what they were supposed to do, which is stay in the background and provide a stable rock for the currency. Under Kevin Warsh, that's going to change, and I think all Americans are going to be grateful for that in the long run.
Okay, your comments about Kevin Warsh, Ben.
Yeah, look, I think he's returning the Fed to the way it used to be run under great leaders like Alan Greenspan, who, is very instrumental in saving this country back when we had a real market crash. Look, we need less talk from the Fed and from Fed governors and more concerted action. We have a head of the Fed, a chairman who understands inflation, which we have not had in a long time in this country. We have inflation is the most misunderstood thing there is. I talk about it from time to time on this show. It is completely misunderstood. And the real inflation rate right now, if you look at GDP deflators, is well under 3%. It's closing in on 2% right now. It is not the price of oil, which goes up because the Straits of Hormuz got closed yesterday. That is not inflation. That's the price of oil going up. It's the price function working based on supply and demand. That is not inflation. Just like, we're going to have these prices come down or the inflation number come down because price of gas is about to fall a dollar a gallon. That's not deflation that's occurring. That's just the relative price change in a commodity item. Inflation is a general price level issue, the difference between money and the amount of goods it's measuring. So Kevin Warsh understands that, and thankfully, for that reason, I actually see rates going lower, not higher in the future. I think the market is completely wrong about their bias towards higher rates right now.
All right, a topic we did want to talk about is some of the corruption in college sports, and it won't be the same. But we first off, we've got to get our guys with their hot button topics, and that comes first. Frank Venuccio.
Sorry, I don't know. Are we doing hot button or?
Yes, and
okay.
And here's Frank Venuccio. Frank Venuccio, your hot button topic.
Representative Brett Guthrie and Representative John Joyce, one a Republican, one a Democrat, have introduced legislation to fight foreign influence in the United States. One of the big challenges for the future is for the United States to remain dominant in AI. And of course, that would be the worst thing for the Chinese. They are deathly afraid of American success in AI. And so they have been funding public relations campaigns against AI, directly interfering in American politics. This legislation is geared directly towards stopping that, and I think it opens the door towards further review of how deeply Chinese money is involved in the internal operations of American politics.
Ben Brunson, your hot button topic.
Yeah, quick aside, when I was talking about Elon Musk earlier, I forgot to mention AI. He is a major player there. He's the reason OpenAI exists, and he has his own company, XAI, which is a growing player. Look, the military, deaths in the military. When we have a limited war like we had with Iran, the press goes crazy every time a handful of Americans get killed in combat. It's interesting to look at something, and this is just for perspective. And over the last 45 years, since 1980, the average deaths of active duty military every year have been 1,360 dead per year. The leading causes of death among that over that 45-year period, number one is suicide. Number two is accidents. Number three is illness. Number four is homicide, unrelated to combat. Number five is deaths caused by enemy action or combat deaths. It is the fifth leading cause. Suicide accounts for 1/3 of all active duty deaths over the last 45 years. It is the leading issue we have in the military. Just a little bit of perspective, totally different from prior wars like World War I and World War II. It is a different world, and we're able to exercise our military prowess with far fewer casualties and loss of life.
All right, we've got to close out this weekend. It's Father's Day. Frank, as we say goodbye.
The role of fathers in our country has been underplayed by the media and by the entertainment industry for over half a century. Hopefully that'll start to change.
Ben?
Hey, happy Father's Day to all. I'm the father of three, and it's the greatest thing you can do is have children. So God bless everyone who does.
Passing on the legacy, and I wish the same. Thanks so much for listening to us. Join us again next week as we once again go inside the news.
You're listening to Wayman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.